Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to create a ChatGPT app from scratch using OpenAI Apps SDK. This SDK lets you define your app logic and a UI that can run inside the ChatGPT conversation, where ChatGPT can call you a tool and render the output as a UI where user can interact naturally. So let's dive in. These are the steps you can use to write your first ChatGPT app. The first thing, you need to define MCP server, either Python or Node.js. You're going to define tool. Inside that, these are the basically functionality you can expose as your app. You need to define input and output schema for each of your tools so that ChatGPT aware how to call your method and what output to be expected. The localhost IP address needs to be exposed as a public URL so that it can configure into the ChatGPT. Once that is done, you can use your app inside the ChatGPT conversation. So let's dive into the writing your first ChatGPT app. So in order to write your app along with the Python or Node.js, you also need to aware of the ChatGPT app SDK, because this is what we're going to use to actually write the UI inside the ChatGPT. So before we get into the code, you need to understand these key items. So basically the architecture. So if you go here, there are the key components you need to understand. The first, we need the MCP server. And we need to define the JSON tool as we discussed earlier, and this is gonna sandbox as iframe UI. We're gonna send the iframe UI to the ChatGPT so that it can render our HTML inside the ChatGPT. And this is the window.openai bridge that can be used to pass the information to your app and inside the ChatGPT conversation. Your MCP server is open standard, and it can connect to the external tools, and it's gonna either SSE or HTTP based. So these are the basic things you need to know before you write into the you get into the ChatGPT app development. And in the development, you need to have the step setup and planning is nothing, is implementation is important. You're gonna define tools as your schemas and register MCP tools as your functionality, and you're going to build the HTML and JavaScript that can render on the ChatGPT interface. Let's get into the code now. We have the MCP server ready in this Node.js application, you can see, and if you need more information how to write MCP server, I already have another video. I will add link in the description, you can check later. And this is basically ready to use MCP server. I'm going to show you how to convert this into the ChatGPT app, because the foundation of ChatGPT app is to write a MCP server first. So I will explain what this MCP server does. It's a simple one register tool is there, greet user. It just simply take the input from the user. I had defined the input schema here. Is the name of the user to greet, and after it's passed, it's just reading the name, and then it will print the content line, the greet OpenAI opening user UI greeting, and with the title that they given here. This tool need to give the structured output with the with the defined names, so that these names, this object can be used as a tool output inside the ChatGPT. And this is our Express server. Again, this is everything is explained in another video, but it's very straightforward. I'm just spinning up Express server here, and I'm pointing to the streamable HTTP layer, and I'm just connecting it over MCP server. And this is where I'm starting this MCP server on the port. So now let's get into the how to convert this MCP server into the UI into your ChatGPT. So first thing you need to do in order to write UI, it's write HTML. So I already have this HTML page created. It's pretty straightforward page. So these are the style elements. You can ignore this. You can write simple one also. And these are the simple HTML having a live MCP demo session, and this is a loading message, and this is the main component that you require. The first thing we need to define this title. You see I have one header here, h1 title here, and I'm just grabbing the title in the element here. And I have a one method, simple JavaScript method, which read the data. I will show you how to pass this data. This data will come from the ChatGPT app itself. So once this data receive, I'm going to just read the message out of that object and just display this content. And text content is hard coded here. So you see the data message. This message actually the object in your MCP server here. So we are sending this message from our register tool, and we're going to use in our UI, in our HTML like this. So the question here is how this data is coming from your MCP server in this JavaScript. See, the answer is ChatGPT OpenAI SDK gonna send this data here, and we're gonna capture the data in this event. You see, OpenAI set global event, and in this event we're gonna capture this window OpenAI tool output, and this tool output is actually your structured output coming from your MCP server tool. So we're gonna call this our render method, passing this data, and we're gonna capture the message and just display to our header one element here. So once your HTML is ready, the next step is to send this HTML into your MCP server so that ChatGPT is aware of this HTML. In order to do that, the first step you need to do is read this HTML content. So I'm going to use this read file sync of Node.js method, and I'm going to read the content of this HTML file in this variable. And the next step, we're going to need to register a resource. Along with the tool, we're going to register a resource here. And it's pretty straightforward. We're going to send the name, and this is the dummy UI. It has to be like this format: UI/widget and HTML file. This file name can be anything. It should match with here. And in the content, you're going to send the URI, MIME type. The text is basically the HTML file content that we did here. You can see. One more thing we need to change in the register tool method, because ChatGPT should be aware of this is not a standard message chat. It's requires UI rendering. In order to do that, all we need to send here is meta tag. And in this meta tag, we're gonna send the output template. This should match exactly what you send in the resource file. This is kind of a mapping to allow ChatGPT know that this is the resource it need to read in order to render this output. And these are the two invoking and invoke methods. You want to display any kind of loading message, and once it's loaded, you want to display this message. So yeah, that's it. Your server ChatGPT app is ready to render the UI now. You need to run this server and see this output in ChatGPT. So let me run this server here in command prompt. I will write no server.js. So our server is listening to this port 3000. So we need to expose this server to public IP, so that public URL, so that we can configure that into our ChatGPT. So I will open another window. I'm going to use ngrok for that, and we're going to use command ngrok http and the port that server is running. Once you do that, it will actually open another command prompt where you will see the public URL. So yeah, we have this URL now. Let me grab this URL and let's configure into our ChatGPT now. So ChatGPT should be in developer mode in order to use that app. So I already enabled it. You can go to this setting and then enable this developer mode. You can see that I am using the developer mode already. And the next step, you're going to use the create app. You can give the name. You can choose any name here. And this is the URL of MCP. We need to add MCP at the last. We are not using any auth, so I'm selecting no auth here. So you are ready to create the. Okay, once your app is ready, it will ready to use. Now let's run this in ChatGPT. You need to select the app here before you give any command. So I'm gonna say read. Okay, so it's calling our tool and it's getting the HTML, and you can see this is the message, and here we go. We have this our first ChatGPT UI rendering the data from our MCP tool. So yeah, that's it for today, and please subscribe for more such content. Thank you very much.